Hi, welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. And today is February 25th, and it is my weekly update number 54, where I talk about everything I worked on completed throughout the week. So I quilted a quilt, put some binding on a few more, finished a cross stitch, and some other things. So the quilt behind me is the one I quilted on the long arm this week, and it is quilted with a Christmas tree pantograph, and it's now my quilt, so it's the first time you saw it. Now this is something my mom did and asked me to quilt it, so I did. We'll go in and take a closer look at it. So this is my mother's quilt, like I said, and it was quilted with a Christmas tree pantograph, so it's got Christmas trees coming down it, with stars on the top of the trees. And I'll flip it over and you can look at the backing. And that is the backing she used. And this is one of the quilts I got the binding on to this week. Now I believe this pattern was called Boxed In, and it came from a quilt kit from Polar Fabrics, where it was a deal. You got 5 1-yard cuts of fabrics, and then when you did that you picked out a pattern, and this is what I did. Now this is very Americana 4th of July themed quilt, but let's take a closer look at it. Okay, now I just did the binding on this. The quilt was quilted a while ago, and you saw me make this on my through my weekly updates. And the quilting on it says Stars and Stripes Forever. Coming down, that binding is the same as that blue and white. Now, I will say with this quilt, when I was putting the binding on, I mean, it was barely enough. As a matter of fact, I didn't even cut anything off when I was joining the ends because it barely made enough. So I'm actually doing the same pattern on another quilt kit. So when I do the binding on that, or when I start preparing the binding, I'm gonna make sure I have an extra strip just to make sure I have enough. I did make it, but I mean, it was barely enough. All right, so now let's look at the other quilt I put the binding on. But that brings my totals to, I have quilted 8 quilts this year, so my goal is 50. I'm up to 8, and I've also put the binding on 7. So let's hang that up and see what we get. And this is the other quilt that I put the binding on this week. Now this quilt is actually from the Lori Holt Vintage Christmas book. This was a sew-along Fat Quarter Shop did a couple years ago, and they just took a couple of the blocks, picked them out, and put it together in a different finish. It's not Christmas. So we'll go take a little look at it. So this is also a quilt you've seen me quilt on my channel through my weekly updates. Now when I quilted this, it was quilted with a dragonfly pantograph that's on it. And the binding is what we did. So it is now all done. And I will flip it over. You can take a look at the label. I forgot to show you the label on the last one, but it's there. There's my label. So as far as piecing goes, what did I do this week? Well, I started on the Rose and Bloom block of the month, and I did a video showing my first month's blocks, which these were what those are, and these are what mine came out like, because I'm using different fabrics. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we worked on that. Oops, sorry. So I'm also working on this Meet the Makers kit here. Now, what it has us doing first of all is making these alternate blocks. These alternate blocks are these right here. And there's a bunch of them, and they all have different colors. Right here, it's purple. Those are greens. That is like an orangey, corally color right there. That's yellow. So that's what I'm working on. Now the other blocks I think will go a lot quicker once I get them. But let's see, I worked on some of that. Here's the center of the block. It's got a 4 patch, got some white on each side. And then these will go on the top and the bottom. And then we start with some flying geese units, which I got all those that will go around. Got all the different colors. There's some purples. And then in the corners, we've got some more 4 patch units here. It kind of goes in the corners. There's a look at that block for that. So I worked a little bit on that. Like I said, I think this is the most complicated block, and it's got the most of them. So once I start working on the other blocks, I think it'll start going a little faster. And as far as piecing, let me show you what else I did. Today I got block 11 for the pressed flowers sew along from the sew sampler done. And that's my block for block 11. So next month will be block 12, so that'll be the last block, and we should get the finish instruction with it, but I already know the finishing instructions because I bought the kit, so I've also already been working on that. So hopefully next month it won't take me too long to finish it all together. And the other thing I did is I worked on a test block for my next What Will I Make series. This is going to be my test block for the next one I make. What will I make? And that's just where I take one of my pre-cuts and make something with it. Okay, so as far as piecing and quilting, that's pretty much all I've worked on. So let's move on to my cross stitch. As you know, I've been working on this Words to Live By gigantic cross stitch piece, and I was just working on this one. Was the last one. When you love what you have everything you need. So, and I did finish this week. So let me show you. And there it is. It's all done. It is gigantic. And this will probably be turned into a pillow, would be what my guess is. Yeah, I was trying to measure it here a little bit. Maybe a 22-inch pillow might be, depending on how big of a border. 24 maybe. So that's that. And since I finished working on that, I had to get a new cross stitch out. So I'm working on this vintage Christmas sampler pattern by Lori Holt. I'd finished that quilt. I still have to put the binding on it, but there, this kind of went along with that quilt. So let's get this done. And I will show you this, but I don't really know that it's going to show up well because all I've worked on is the white. So you can kind of see some of it. Now in the pattern, it called for ecru to do all this, but with this color of the fabric and the sparklies in it, that ecru, you couldn't see it all. I mean, that white, you can see a little bit. So I changed out the ecru for the white just to make it a little bit more noticeable. And working on this pattern over here, the City Sleek Rihanna. And I will pull it out. I am really liking the color of this. And I am using this yarn, Soft and Sleek, low fiber, from Yarn Bee, from Hobby Lobby. Stuff I've had in my stash for a while. So here's the front, coming down the front. Actually, that's because it's the right front I'm working on. So there's the right front, and this ribbing over here will be the armhole. So the armhole will be something like that. That's the front. That is the back. So that's where I am on that. And the only other thing I worked on this week is my diamond painting. So here is the picture of my diamond painting I've been working on. And I'll get my diamond painting and show it up, hold it up, and you can see where I am on that. So I got all of her face done. All right. So that's everything I worked on this week. So what's coming up on this week? Well, I've got a few more unboxings coming up, and I've got some more videos of me sewing. Don't know if I'm going to get up this week or next week, but soon. All right, till next time.